always learning. I've learned a lot about creating inclusive digital products, storytelling through multimedia, accessible technologies, the list goes on. But if there's one thing that I value most from what I've learned, it's the importance of exploring new and creative ideas, challenging what we know to make the world a better place. Okay, so now you might be wondering, well, what does that have to do with chickpea pasta? How can something as simple as pasta be important enough for me to have you all sit down here and listen to me talk today? Well, when I was first introduced to chickpea pasta, I didn't think that much of it either. One weekday night, my roommates cooked me this new mystical food I had never tried before called chickpea pasta. I've had chickpeas in my hummus, in my dip, in my chipotle bowls, even in my Filipino traditional desserts, but I never would have imagined having chickpeas as a pasta. It looked and tasted so similar to regular pasta that when I found out that about half a cup contained about 20 grams of protein, I was absolutely shocked. So naturally, I decided to buy myself a pack, and slowly I started incorporating it into my daily meal prep whenever I didn't have enough time to cook my usual chicken and rice meals, but still wanted that daily dose of protein. And then after a few weeks into doing this, it got me thinking, could chickpea pasta have benefits that go beyond a more convenient meal? Well, as someone with an interest in user experience design and digital arts, my background is focused on finding human-centered and creative solutions to real-world problems. So, I'm sure we are all no strangers to hearing conversations about climate change and our growing carbon footprint as a society. Well, today, I'd like to open up that conversation to the food industry and challenge what we know about it as consumers. Together, I'd like us to explore the idea of chickpea pasta and how it represents a pathway to change in the food industry. Okay, but why exactly do we need that change? Well, there are plenty of other individuals who have come to similar conclusions, recognizing that something has to change from our habits to consumers all the way to the practices of the food industry as a whole. Has anyone here ever looked through the Canada Food Guide before? Maybe even had it pinned up in their kitchen or elementary school classroom? Well, for me, growing up, the Canada Food Guide was a staple in Ontario health curriculums and even a foundation for healthy and balanced Canadian eating. But do our current food industry standards still meet the needs of Canadians today? And on a larger scale, does it still match the needs of a sustainable environment? Well, that's exactly what researchers at McGill wanted to find out. They actually conducted a study back in 2023 comparing the Canada Food Guide with Canada's modern food supply, focusing on things like availability and food supply, and environmental impact. Specifically though, they looked at different food groups and measured their environmental impact across 5 different impact categories: greenhouse gas emissions, land exploitation, eutrophication potential, water scarcity, and water withdrawals. Now this graph may seem like a lot to look at, I don't know about you, so let's just focus on the dark blue and green bars. They found that animal-based foods, specifically dairy and red meat products, accounted for at least 80% of the estimated total environmental impact when looking at the different impact categories. This is huge, especially when considering how little other food groups like legumes, fruits, vegetables, eggs, and fruit take part in that impact. The food industry also creates a significant environmental burden through pollution and resource depletion, and according to the UN, most food-related greenhouse gas emissions actually come from agriculture and associated land use. More specifically though, with animal-based products. Meat production often places an immense burden on grasslands through the use of nitrous oxide, methane, CO2, as well as the use of fertilizers and deforestation. So as an alternative to this resource-hungry industry, the UN proposed plant-based foods, which places less environmental burden by using smaller amounts of energy, land, water, and all around producing less greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, but now you might be thinking, well, how bad could it be if I only have meals with meat once or twice a day? Well, that's where it gets worse. Specifically with overconsumption. The UN reported that 1 billion tons of food went to waste in 2022 alone. The transport and production associated with that waste contributed to about 8 to 10% of greenhouse gas emissions. A University of Waterloo study back in 2017 even found that avoidable household food waste contributed to 9.5 to 15% of the diet's global warming potential. So what can we take from all these facts that I'm throwing at you? As consumers, we need to recognize that something has to change. But how can we incite that change if we don't care? And how does that change benefit us? Well, this is where chickpea pasta comes in. Imagine something that's plant-based, all while being high in protein and rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. This is what makes chickpea pasta so special. Okay, so to put this into perspective, we are going to contrast chickpea pasta with a food staple that many of us all know and love, wheat pasta. So in about 85 grams of fettuccine pasta, you get 14% of your daily required value of fiber, 4% for potassium, 46% for vitamin B1, and 31% for vitamin B3. Okay, now in 100 grams of chickpea lentil pasta, on the other hand, that gives you 39% of your daily required value of fiber, 21% for potassium, 71% for vitamin B1, and 45% for vitamin B3. Chickpea pasta offers substantially more nutrients than our classic fettuccine pasta. Okay, but what about those of us who don't care about the health benefits? Well, chickpea pasta's versatility also allows for a more friendly and convenient food option for various individuals with different lifestyles, dietary needs, and dietary restrictions. For people with celiac disease or IBS, for example, chickpea pasta is a nutritious, gluten-free alternative for traditional pasta. For students like me and you, who value convenience and efficiency when cooking their meals, chickpea pasta acts as a simple and quick alternative. When thinking of solutions that welcome sustainability, it's important that we think of the benefits and how that can benefit different people and their needs. While this alternative does not solve all of the problems faced by the food industry, rethinking our traditional habits can help us to forge a path towards sustainable futures for future generations. So what else can be done? If we revisit one of the studies that we talked about earlier, our food industry supplies a lot more animal-based products than we actually need to be consuming. So by exploring alternatives to animal-based foods and implementing them into our diets, we can lower our carbon footprint as consumers. Tons of new alternatives that go beyond just chickpea pasta are being discovered every day, from jackfruit, tofu, lentils, tempeh, the list goes on. And just by looking at these alternatives, they not only offer nutritional benefits, but also come with a lighter environmental footprint compared to traditional animal-based products. By diversifying our diet with these options, we not only reduce our reliance on resource-intensive foods, but we also contribute to a more sustainable food system. In our current day, our generation more than anyone should know that individual actions aren't enough. We need to also be supporting systemic change. One example of this is with the Zambian Food Change Lab. In Zambia, their reliance on maize monocropping led to a handful of environmental and social issues like soil degradation, biodiversity loss, and malnutrition. Recognizing that individual actions weren't enough, they actually turned to stakeholders of local community, civil society, and government. Each of these individuals all had an impact and decided to ideate together different policies that could promote things like crop diversification, youth engagement, and sustainable food production. This, in turn, had an impact on how food was grown, produced, and distributed throughout their communities. This example just proves how meaningful change is possible when diverse groups come together and use the power of community and creative solutions to solve problems. As consumers, rethinking our traditions means learning more about how policies can affect sustainable food production. One of the most powerful tools we have is conversation. By just talking about the environmental impact of our food choices, like we're doing today, we raise awareness and inspire others to act. It's all about creating those inclusive dialogues that welcome diverse perspectives and inspire action through community. Okay, if there's anything that I want you to take from me today, it's this. We need to explore new and creative solutions, and how simply rethinking our old ways of doing can forge a more sustainable path towards our future. Our choices and conversations have the power to create significant positive impact. So I want you to think, why do we need solutions like chickpea pasta in the first place? Thank you.